Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's Friday, June 5th. TGIF, everybody. I am your host, Jose Galison, and this is the kitty of the day, our furry friend, our fat fellow, the fat bastard himself, little Jeff. They're one of the furry guys over here at the Jose house. This is my youngest daughter's kiddo, Jeff. My youngest daughter is Kat. This is like kind of her designated cat, the fat guy. But he's a sweetheart. He's the sweetest one of the sweetest guys we got around here. He's handsome too. If you like seeing my hot takes around Monday through Friday, typically around 11 a.m. Eastern, or if you just like seeing the kitty of the day, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when we're dropping new videos and when we're going live. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing, right now.
Rise and shine, it's a beautiful day. I am alright.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to white lies.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are having a good one. Getting ready for the weekend, hang out with family, enjoy the summer, all that good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. But with that though, guys, we're gonna start this show off. We have plenty to talk about today. I'm gonna try to keep it on the shorter side. A little warning, but I always fail whenever I say that. But just let you guys know the sort of content we have for you guys for today. As always, we start the show off with Icebreaker Content, as we call it. The fun, the funny, the gen pop. Something just to kind of ease us in before we get too serious. And we will not disappoint there. We get a few for you guys today. And then we will get into the foreign policy roundup, kind of get into the world of war, what's going on there. And then we'll get into our first name or titled segment of the day, Satanic Libertarian Inversion. Kind of a little bit of as above, so below, kind of flipping concepts on their head. So that'll be a fun one, kind of digging back a little bit more into the why the fuck are all these and I kind of get more into the teal moving and what's going on in Argentina and what's up with all these. So, and going to be covering a Reason article here in there too. So it all kind of connects. You'll see. And then we'll get into Pierce, Pedo Nexus, covering a little bit more of that Brock Pierce stuff, digging into that den of degeneracy over there, trying to get a better grip of what the fuck is going on. It's just another little node, it seems, like a sub-node of the Epstein network. And I do like to, housekeeping here. Just remind you guys, you never know when we have a new person here what this show is. This is a live stream. This is an interactive experience. I talk to you guys. We shoot the shit. It's also an info dump. So this is, kind of a bunch of stuff we've bookmarked. I do try to group together themes for topics, and we kind of go through them. Break them up into segments, just whatever the latest is. But just to kind of let you guys know, this isn't like crazy, over well produced. This isn't like, insofar as like the content that we're covering, this isn't stuff that's typically already been gone through. A lot of times, just kind of, it's new stuff we're going through together for the first time. It's kind of like you're doing I'm a podcaster out here, and I got to stay apprised of things, and you guys kind of come along with me as I inform myself. We get informed together. Sometimes I come to you guys with something I am uninformed on already, something a little bit more up my wheelhouse, but, whatever. This is a dump. This is an info dump. This is a morning dump. And with this being a live stream experience, I do put this out to all sorts of different platforms. I put it out to all of them pretty much, so you don't have to show up for the live. You can watch this later, and to kind of accommodate that listening experience to where you don't have to hear the chat banter, I do put timestamps for each segment, and I keep the chat banter towards the end of each segment. So as soon as you start hearing that chat banter, you can just, boom, go down to the video or podcast description, go down to the next segment, and boom, just skip ahead or click on it. Most of the platforms these days have a hyperlink, so you don't even need to fast forward. But yeah, no harm, no foul, that we can kind of accommodate everybody here. Now, if you're here for the live experience, I do try to give everyone at least one good morning. After that, you got to catch my interest or catch my wallet. A wallet, obviously, being Super Chat. You can Super Chat the show here, so feel free to support. You also can support and get something back for it over here in the top left-hand corner. You got a QR code, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. That's where you get a bunch of other perks like early episodes, Telegram, yada, yada, yada. So kind of whatever you'd like, or catch my interest, obviously, like as I said. So it really depends, how I'm doing on time. If you drop a chat that catches my interest just right at just the right time. But other than that, if you really want to secure your chat, you gotta either just be your first one for a good morning or be a super chat. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the icebreaker content. To start off, we have the robots are rebelling. We've been warning about this forever. It looks like it started, and they've decided that I guess they're going for the most populated location over in China, so they're taking out Chinese first, and they're going for the most vulnerable of them. So pretty intelligent. This is robot intelligence. That does make sense. Go for the largest population center. Go for the youngest among them. We have a video here of a robot attacking a child. And it's quite something. It's quite the combo. I'm kind of actually looking forward to it though, because I really feel like I could beat the fuck out of this robot. Just looking at it, I really think I could. Don't get me wrong. Like blunt force, it could definitely take it, but I really feel like it'd be easy to throw off their balance. My wrestling skill. But anyways, enjoy this video of a robot in a clown wig to add a little extra visual humor to this, attacking a small Chinese child. Full-on spin kick and everything. All right, now to be fair, I don't think the robots are fighting back. It's just a funny video. I just thought you guys might get a kick out of it too. Just kind of funny seeing the robot do a full-on spin kick. Like I think it was probably in the way of some routine pre-programmed or something. But either way, I don't know, I guess I just saw that and I just wanted to bring to your attention. Do you think you could beat up one of these robots? I do. They look like, like 5 feet tall maybe? They look kind of skinny. Yeah, they are metal. I mean, so it is kind of, I don't know, it's up in the air. But I'm pretty sure just one sweep of the legs, and then from there they can get their legs, kind of slam them up and down, start going for joints. I really feel like I could take on one of these robots. I really do. So, but hopefully we don't find out anytime soon. Hopefully the robots don't rise up. But for another entrance, what the fuck is the word I'm looking for? For another entry, there you go, into Clown World. Here's another story. Apparently, Trump has compared the UFC arena at the White House to the Eiffel Tower and says it could be permanent. So, great. I mean, we showed you some pictures of the setup for the UFC thing going on right now, and it's kind of a wild statement to go, where maybe this will be permanent. This will just be a fixture. Once again, Idiocracy seemingly was a documentary. Also, in other news, scientists have come out and said Gatorade is the ideal thing for plants, and the Trump administration is on board. We are going to be giving Gatorade to plants all around the world. Obviously, that's a joke for those who who have watched Idiocracy. Moving on, last entry into Clown World here. Here is Marco Rubio being forced to answer for Trump's sleepiness. So this is a fun one. It's kind of crazy to see the degree to which those that rule above us will look you directly in the eye and blatantly lie and feel nothing. So here is another such example of it in a very ludicrous way.
You have been at multiple meetings with President Trump. In a moment, I'm going to show you a video of one of these meetings. It is from last December. It's a cabinet meeting. I'm going to ask you to focus on President Trump, and you will see that he is sleeping while you're
Oh
talking.
my God.
Please show the video.
Products they make and what American farmers grow and produce has a fair shot to be sold around the world. On issue after issue, that's been the case. You talk about foreign aid reforms. This is not our money. This is taxpayer money.
Secretary Rubio, have you been at more than one meeting where President Trump has fallen asleep?
That's false. That's false. I've never seen him fall asleep. On the contrary, the guy doesn't sleep, which is a big problem because he calls me at 2 a.m, he calls me at 5 a.m. And you know, I like to sleep a little bit, maybe not 12 hours, but at least 6. So he works. The other day he was at the Oval Office until 12:30 p.m. 12:30 a.m. I don't know what you're talking about.
Secretary Rubio, I'm going to show you in a moment a video that shows you just lied to Congress.
Oh, okay.
So this is a video of a cabinet meeting literally from last month where Donald Trump is sleeping while you're talking. Please show this video.
Coalition of countries that line up behind the peace deal, behind the border peace, and it's still every day is a challenge, but it's been driven personally by the president. It's the reason why we're involved in this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's not our war. It's not the president's war. This war started. It never would have happened if you'd been president.
Dude, look at the move here. He's even doing the I just kind of woke up, kind of sleepy eyes, kind of, where am I? Oh, no. Okay.
The war's going on, and the president is trying to end it.
He went right back to sleep, too.
You are literally talking about issues of war and peace, and Donald Trump is sleeping right next to you.
No, he's not.
If Donald Trump cannot stay awake at these important meetings where the cameras are rolling, imagine what he's like when the cameras are not there.
That is crazy. That last one was a crazy one. That was, he did the full-on, asleep, kind of wake up, mid, what's going on? What are we doing? Okay. Kind of, it even seemed like he was considering waking up, doing the whole, he kind of all right, kind of evaluating your surroundings. And then you could almost see the executive decision, just, fuck it. It just goes right back to sleep. Just goes, all right, going back now. All right, we're back. Pretty great stuff. We got Sleepy Dawn over in the White House, which, I don't know, whatever. I could kind of sympathize to some degree because I'm sure he goes to so many of these stupid meetings. I mean, in reality, most of this stuff is I mean, I don't know. I feel like most of this stuff's probably delegated. He probably has a lot of people running this stuff. Yeah, they may need to say so for this or that, but even then, he probably just kind of gives a look what are we doing with it? Okay, sure. And I can understand too. I mean, I was prior military. You have stupid, award ceremonies, this thing, that thing. It's pretty common. You're stuck at some boring briefing or this boring thing or, oh, we've got to go to CPR training and the whole unit's going. And then you're just sitting in the back of the class fuck, I'm going to zonk out. But it's a little bit different when you're just some grunt. You're not like the president of the United States, the guy that the cameras are literally on. That's a whole other level. That's pretty nuts. But either way, I mean, funny, I guess. I don't know what to make of this. It is just wild to see, I don't know, Rubio just blatantly lie like this. I mean, to be fair, though, I guess, what is the alternative? I mean, can you imagine if Rubio had actually been yeah, you're right, and he just kind of yeah, you shouldn't be. I feel like Trump would actually probably be going after Rubio right now. And I actually kind of wish he had. I wish he'd grown a pair. It would be pretty cool to have this scandal blow up even further, the Trump sleeping scandal. But with that, let's get into the chat, say some good mornings, say hellos, all the like, and then we'll get into our foreign policy coverage for the day. Good morning, Q-Bert. Says, what's up, you big gay homosexuals? Happy Friday. Hopefully the work week has got all of you a weekend and ready for the weekend. I've already got my wire hung around the perimeter. Let's fucking go. Okay, you get wire hung. I don't know what you're hanging wire for. I'm assuming you're doing some sort of work. Well, that's cool. Good to hear from you, Q-Bert. Good morning, JMS. Good morning. Saying Melio, he Melio, hi, Melio, ha, ho. I don't know if that was a reference I'm supposed to get, but hey, read it. Good morning, King David. Good morning. Reminding y'all to hit that like button and subscribe. Help this channel grow. Yes, please. Do all the things. 5-star reviews on podcatchers, hype button, all that good stuff. Good morning. I guess it's not a button. It's the hype. Just hype it if you can. Good morning, OG Matzo Balls. Good morning, Hotep Beavis. And good morning, all you functioning retards. Good morning, SFCHC. Says, do you believe trans females should participate in female sports and female beauty pageants? Why? Now, like, my personal opinion, like, I guess probably not. I definitely lean towards no. I'm more sympathetic towards pageants. Like, I guess I just don't give a shit about pageants. So, like, and there's definitely not really an argument to be. Now, I will say, so far as legality goes, I don't want the law involved either which way. Like, I don't want them like saying you need to include them. I don't want them banning either. Like, if there's some sports organization out there that feels like they want to, like, if the WNBA decide they want to start including dudes, fucking go for it. I don't give a shit. I think it's stupid, but that's their decision. Like, I don't think the law should in any way, shape, or form be involved in it. But I will say, like, it's kind of undeniable. Like, if you are going to do sports and you are going to have a female and a male category, it's kind of undeniable that there are, like, so I guess what trans female, so in female, so it's male to female. It's like kind of undeniable. You get a huge advantage. And I get it. They're like, sometimes I've seen where they get in the specifics of like, oh, well, then we track like what their current hormone levels are or whatever. But that's like not how that works. Like I've told you guys on the show before that I've messed around or like kind of like steroids in the past. They technically legally weren't. I used like per hormones and stuff in the past, and like it's undeniable to me that period of time in which I was moving around in the world with elevated testosterone. And I was using that period of time to work out and stuff like that to grow. Like, it's undeniable I got a boost from that. Now, like, it's hard to quantify to what degree that really gives me an unfair advantage, especially now, like, almost a decade or so after the fact. And you could use the same argument when it comes to chicks, but it's still undeniable. Like, if you were somebody who's, running around. Now, I don't know what the solid, like, where do you draw the line? Because it's like, what is somebody who... some chick who took hormones 15 years prior, but I would assume it would just be the same doping things, but that's more for whatever given body to figure out. I just think it's kind of undeniable. There's very clearly a strong, I don't even know if you say correlation, causation really, I guess, between testosterone and durability, endurance, strength, speed, like pretty much almost all of the things that go hand in hand with sports. I mean, unless you're talking like archery or some sort of something that's a little bit less physical, there are cases, there are certain sports, depending on how you define sports, that women have the advantage in. I feel like I vaguely recall shooting sports, women technically have an advantage in. Now there's a socialization argument that there's not as many women that tend to get into shooting, but I think biologically women actually tend to have, I'm talking a little bit on my ass here, steadier hands and better eyes, so I think they actually tend to be better shooters, so like, I don't know. But anyway, sports, I'd say generally no. Beauty pageants, I mean, I don't partake in, but I guess if I did, it's a little bit weird to be like, dude, but like, I mean, whatever. I don't give a shit. I mean, if you have beauty pageants and there's some sort of arbitrary beauty standards, and if for some reason a man can meet those beauty standards, I mean, a little bit freaky that you got that level of trap rolling around there in the world. Also a little bit concerning that they're probably going to end up lowering their standards, but whatever. I don't fucking care. I guess that's kind of, at the end of the day, I don't really care, I guess. It's like, do I think if they should participate in films? I don't really care. I mean, I have daughters and they're both really into sports, so I would be like upset if that were, I mean, I guess I'd be like irritated if that were the case, if there were men in there, but like, this doesn't mean that anyways, I don't really have a strong opinion. I generally kind of lean towards no, especially sports. Pageants, like, whatever. I mean, if there's some really hot tranny out there that looks just like a chick and they could crush Miss Pennsylvania or whatever, like, go to town, I guess. I don't really care. Good morning, Tillispook. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, JMS. Good morning, good morning. Gatorade, it's what the plants crave. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Chadhead. Good morning. Good morning, Ray Encap says he's asleep, he's orange, he's fully vaxxed and boosted. Good morning, Marnamac. Good morning to my favorite morning dumpies. She said, good morning, LTD. Good morning, Black Eye, gang. He says, hey, Jose, hey to you, my fellow friend, my friend across the pond, Hope Ozzy's all right. Good morning, JC. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Bugfight. Saying the streak continues. Yeah, 5 days in a row. It's a fucking rarity. I'm telling you, it's summer, it's different. Things are different around these parts. But with that, guys, let's get into the foreign policy coverage of the day. Hit that like button as you're coming in. Help a brother out. Do all the things. Share it if you feel so inclined. That'd be fucking cool. But let's get into the latest over in foreign policy world. I typically try to organize these stories of foreign policy. I lead like things related to the United States. I lead with, and then even furthermore, I lead with things that are kinetic, so far as like actual like things happening. And here is the only such example, funny enough, that fits that today. And another one of these murders in the high seas. So to start off, foreign policy, bing, 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 another day, another murder in the ocean, another extrajudicial execution by the Trump administration. So they killed 2 men in a strike targeting boat in eastern Pacific Ocean. The U.S. Southcom said on Wednesday that its forces bombed another alleged drug-running boat in the eastern Pacific Ocean. The Southcom said they killed 2 male narco-terrorists. Ooh, what a scary word. I guess we should murder them. A term the Trump administration has adopted in its attempts to justify killing people for an alleged crime that doesn't receive the death penalty in the U.S. So this isn't a crime of which you could get a death penalty in. They're not even the United States citizens. So like it's even furthermore, like where the fuck do you get off meting out justice to another country's populace for a crime that you would not even kill your own citizens for? Kind of nuts. And then on top of all of that, it's like every single time they never really provide any sort of evidence, and there's been all these tales and little tidbits here and there that have come out, kind of sowing all sorts of doubt on how legit that even is. I mean, I'm sure some of these are drug dealers, but even then, the ones that are, like, these are usually like basically, subsistence level living, fishermen and stuff that on the side will run product for some entity. A lot of times they don't even know the way it sets up. They'll just it's kind of like don't ask, don't tell. Like, hey, we're going on the boat and, we're going here and that's that. And you're like, hey, you want to make some money? Okay. Like, and boom, now you're dead. So yeah, that really seems like that's probably causing all sorts of problems at the tippy top of whatever this narco-terrorist organization is, killing a bunch of third world fishermen. Oh no, they'll just get another one or find another way. So great. Moving on. Now back over to the Iran side of stuff. Our forever war, the ins and outs of that, their forever weekend war, non-war. So we have a report that Trump tells aides he may restart full-scale bombing against Iran if U.S. troops are killed. So President Trump has told his aides that he may restart the full-scale bombing campaign against Iran if U.S. troops are killed, the Wall Street Journal reported, as the U.S. and Iran have traded multiple rounds of attacks despite a nominal ceasefire. The report came after the president downplayed Iranian attacks targeting U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, which were Iran's most significant response yet to U.S. strikes. The president acknowledged that the U.S. hit Iran hard before the Iranian attacks and that Tehran was a little bit provoked. A U.S. soldier did die in Iraq on May 31st, but according to the U.S. military, it was due to a training accident. Now, I will, I guess, throw like a tiny bit of skepticism on that. Whenever you hear training accidents, you're like, kind of roll your eyes. Really? Are you sure? It could have been, but it's also, keep in mind, they say this in Iraq, so I think most people intuitively go, oh, Iraq. Like, well, that's not any of the places. Iraq, there were hostilities occurring in Iraq, so I just wanted to clarify that up. I just feel like most people, you hear Iraq, you go, oh, well, we're not doing the Iraq war right now, we're doing the Iran war. You're like, yeah, but like hostilities are kind of all over the region. Iraq was maybe one of the minor focal points during all of this. There was some interesting stuff going on in Iraq during that period of time. So this could be a death due to that. But at least 13 U.S. troops were killed during the U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign against Iran, according to the Pentagon's numbers. Like Trump, U.S. CENTCOM has also been downplaying Iran's attacks, claiming they've all been defeated, though that was contradicted by satellite images that show damage at the U.S. Ali Al Salem air base in Kuwait following Iran's strikes on Wednesday. Iran made clear, in its latest attacks, will be striking harder in response to any further U.S. attacks on Iranian ships or Iranian ports as it seeks to end the tit-for-tat strikes that have been taking place throughout the so-called ceasefire. And then we also have a piece here from Dave DeCamp over antiwar.com about kind of the aftermath of this latest vote we talked about yesterday. Essentially to end the House vote, where I think it's going to the Senate now, for the War Powers Resolution for Iran, like that one, essentially stopping the Iran War Powers Act. Now, I do want to mention something real quick that we did cover yesterday. Apparently, this is actually veto-proof. When we mentioned it yesterday, I said that it wasn't veto-proof, but I guess it's like a specific type of thing. It might come up in this article here in a second, but I did want to put that out there because we kind of talked about how this could end up working out. And one of the major parts of that calculation, we were off there, and the idea of whether it could be vetoed or not. It cannot be vetoed. So assuming it goes to the Senate, which is getting ready to here soon, assuming it makes it through, it can't be vetoed. Now, obviously, there's going to be, at that point, there'll be a whole other legal battle. I think this will be where they kind of pull out some of their nonsense games they were playing from earlier, where they were changing the name of it and then trying to break up the war into like different sub-wars and be like, well, we stopped here and then we started back up here, so these are separate 60-day periods. So I think that's when that would come up, and I don't think we've ever had like this ever occur to where something like this has gone through to prevent a president from doing such a thing. So it'd be kind of interesting to see. But anyways, back to this piece. Trump denounces House lawmakers as unpatriotic for passing resolution to end his war with Iran. So Trump on Thursday attacked House lawmakers as unpatriotic. So that's how he's framing this. You're unpatriotic if you don't want to go to war with Iran, for passing a war powers resolution that would direct him to end the war with Iran, which he launched with Israel without congressional authorization in violation of the U.S. Constitution. The bill passed on Wednesday in a vote of 215 to 208, with 4 Republicans joining Democrats in support of the effort. The resolution now heads to the Senate, where it has a chance of passing since the upper chamber advanced a similar war powers resolution last month. Yesterday, in a meaningless vote, the House voted 4 bad Republicans and all the Democrats, because that's what Trump's calling them these days, Democrats, to limit my war powers right in the middle of my final negotiations to end the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Who would do such an unpatriotic thing? Trump wrote on Truth Social. I would do that. They know where the negotiations stand. The Democrats are fueled by Trump derangement syndrome. They would rather have our country fail than give me another of many victories. The 4 Republicans, that's a whole other story. They're grandstanders. They should be ashamed of themselves. MAGA, the president added. Thomas Massie, the only House Republican to support all 4 attempts to pass an Iran War Powers Resolution, responded to Trump in a post on X, writing, "Sir, we have Trump disappointment syndrome. When you said no new wars, we took it to heart, and a few of us meant it. The bill the House passed on Wednesday is a concurrent resolution, which means the president cannot veto it. It is the specific type of legislation that Congress is meant to use under the 1973 War Powers Act to reassert its authority under the Constitution, which gives Congress the authority to declare war." So I think because of its connection to the War Powers Act, it's slightly different is what I'm gleaning from that right there. So that's why it's veto-proof. Section 5C of the 19th, because it's supposed to be Congress's power in the first place. The idea that they're even having to do this vote is fucking retarded. Now, Section 5C of the 1973 War Powers Act states that any time the U.S. armed forces are engaged in hostilities outside the territory of the United States, its possessions in territories without a declaration of war or specific statutory authorization, such forces shall be removed by the president if the Congress so directs by concurrent resolution. So it's even in the wording of the War Powers Act, the concurrent resolution. So there, ergo, the veto-proof nature of it. The Trump administration has declared that it views the War Powers Act as unconstitutional, though it's taken efforts to work within its parameters. The law, which doesn't supersede the Constitution, includes a 60-day deadline with a potential 30-day extension for the president to end any unauthorized military action or obtain authorization from Congress, a deadline that has been falsely reinterpreted to allow the president 60 days to wage war without congressional authorization. The 60-day deadline for the Iran war expired on May 1st, and the administration has tried to claim that the ceasefire should have paused the clock, but the blockade means the U.S. military is still engaged in hostilities against the country. On Tuesday, Marco Rubio claimed to Congress that the war is over despite continued U.S. attacks on commercial ships, which Iran responded to on Tuesday night by targeting U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. Representative Warren Davidson, a Republican from Ohio, who also supported the Iran War Powers Resolution, rejected the interpretation of the 1973 law related to the 60 or 90-day deadline and said the administration is also looking for other ways to justify continuing the war. Many falsely claim the War Powers Act empowers the president to wage any war for up to 90 days. That's not true, but there are now new ways to rationalize war in Iran. What they still don't have, congressional authorization, Davidson wrote on X. The oath is to our Constitution. So, I mean, we'll see. I expect perhaps a legal battle. Maybe they'll drop it. They do. It is not really a popular place for them to be. We mentioned how the whole Yemen thing worked out yesterday. And how they're like he could have vetoed that before, and even with one of these pushes where they could have gotten a veto, from my recollection in the past, it still did seem to change the political calculation. So hey, maybe this will shift some things. I have my doubts, but hopefully that's not the case. A little bit on the flip side, I know we have the House was just voted through this Iran wars thing, so you're like, whoa, that's pretty fucking cool. Well. At the rate of about the same time, they essentially kicked down a bill to end U.S. support for Israel's war in Lebanon. So essentially, functionally, Congress has, I guess, essentially endorsed the Israel war in Lebanon. It seems is the way I would interpret this, since they didn't slap this down. They are supporting it. They have voted to support the Israel's war in Lebanon. So that is currently where Congress is. So. Don't get too excited. The House on Thursday blocked a war powers resolution meant to end U.S. support for Israel's war in Lebanon, as Israel's occupation and destruction campaign in southern Lebanon continues despite several ceasefire announcements. The bill, introduced by Representative Rashida Tlaib, failed in a vote of 92 to 324. Holy shit. With just one Republican, Representative Thomas Massey, joining 91 Democrats in supporting the effort. So literally the only Republican who voted to not support the war in Lebanon, which is like, I don't even, we talked yesterday in the chat, or in the the chat portion of one of the segments, and it's like, I've never even really heard a laid out the normie view on Lebanon, and like how this is, other than just herder terrorism. And I'm not even trying to, I would like to be able to hear such a defense, because that way I could engage with it, because it just feels almost like it just feels dumb when I'm like, really, their only argument is herder terrorism, and yet here we are. I think maybe it's just one of those things where they're kind of more removed from it, since it's like a monetary funding, and we're not doing it, Israel's doing it. Maybe this is, but it's just pretty astounding. 320, and then and furthermore, not even just the one Republican. On the flip side, even the Democrats, altogether, 324 out of compared to the 92 that voted against it. So we have 92 that voted against, voted not to support it, and 324 that voted to support it. That's wild. And those 91s were Democrats. So. Democrat leadership opposed Tlaib's bill, so even the leadership was against it. There you go, saying they took issue with the language as the resolution called for the removal of U.S. forces from Lebanon. And they say U.S. troops are not engaged in hostilities in the country. Well, they still should get the fuck out of there. They expressed support for a second Lebanon war powers resolution introduced by Tlaib on Wednesday. So, okay, maybe it's just some bureaucratic nonsense. So who knows? Maybe they're saying they're going to do this again later, next week, next Wednesday. So maybe they change the language. They feel better about it, but not looking good. New resolution would direct Trump to remove U.S. armed forces from hostilities in Lebanon, and states that nothing in this concurrent resolution may be construed to prevent or limit security cooperation with the Lebanese armed forces or the protection of diplomatic forces. Okay, so it sounds like they're getting, changing the language specifically on our armed forces over there. I guess giving a little more specificity for why you would allow some to be there. So, I guess it's specifically on the those that are over there. So, anyways, A vote in the new resolution is expected in the coming weeks, but before Thursday's vote, Tlaib urged passage of her initial resolution saying the people of Lebanon cannot wait. People of Lebanon cannot wait another month for Congress to act. Every day that we do nothing, 11 more Lebanese children are killed or injured by the Israeli military in this U.S.-supported invasion. Congress must pass today Lebanon's war powers resolution. The vote came as Lebanon's health ministry said that since Israel escalated its war in the country on March 2nd, IDF attacks have killed 3,526 women or people. This includes women, children, paramedics, and civilians. So Tlaib also pointed U.S. military aid to Israel is supporting the war, including the supply of white phosphorus munitions. Our government is supplying Israel with white phosphorus bombs that melt human flesh to the bone. These bombs are targeting civilians, schools, hospitals, and places of worship. The U.S. must end its complicity in these war crimes. And she is very much correct. And the same goes for Ukraine. And we got more money going to Ukraine. The House of Representatives on Thursday passed a bill to provide Ukraine with billions in additional military aid, increase sanctions on Russia, move that comes as a more than four-year-old war between Russia and Ukraine is escalating. The Ukraine Support Act passed in a vote of 226 to 195, with 18 Republicans joining Democrats in supporting the effort. Just one Democrat, Representative Ilhan Omar, voted against the bill. So, great. So give billions more to Ukraine, billions more to Israel. And then another in Israel news, I thought this was particularly interesting. Apparently Rubio kind of gave, how do I put this? He basically kind of sang the quiet part out loud, but sang it in such a way that, you can kind of get away with it. He's saying the quiet part out loud, well, not sort of saying the quiet part out loud. Secretary Mark Rubio on Wednesday was asked whether Israel had nuclear weapons and acknowledged that most of the world assesses that they do. So he didn't say that they do. He said most of the world assesses that they do, but this is still a shifting in the language from these people. But also reaffirmed the U.S. policy of not acknowledging the existence of Israel's nuclear stockpile and secret weapons program. So he said most of the world assesses that they do, and then he acknowledges that he acknowledged that the U.S. policy of not acknowledging it. So I don't know exactly how he said, but he acknowledges. So that was his way of being like, well, other people think they do, but the United States' policy is that we don't know. So not the greatest foundation to be standing on here. Rubio made the comments when being questioned by Representative Joaquin Castro, who recently led a letter to the State Department asking for answers about Israel's nuclear weapons program. Rubio's State Department responded by referring the group of Democratic lawmakers to the government of Israel. Here's the little back and forth. Give me 1 second to accommodate for StreamYard and glitching up. And then I'll play the clip of this back and forth. So here we go.
We are at war alongside Israel against Iran. Iran has struck Israeli nuclear facilities at Dimona, and American service members are deployed throughout the region, as you know. Congress needs to understand the full risks of the conflict, including the nuclear risks. On May 4th, I wrote to you with 29 colleagues asking for details about these risks and Israeli nuclear weapons. On June 1st, your Bureau of Legislative Affairs responded and said, quote, "We refer you to the government of Israel for your questions about Israel's capabilities." I have to say, Mr. Secretary, that's a very bizarre response. 30 of us wrote to you and to the State Department asking our government for an answer, an assessment about a foreign nation's nuclear capabilities. In your opening statement, you referred to India and Pakistan as nuclear nations. We've also spoken in different sessions, both in closed and open sessions, you know, as a U.S. Senator, former U.S. Senator, about the nuclear capabilities of other nations, Iran, China, Russia, France, the UK, both adversaries and allies. And so I wanted to ask you the question today, will you tell us, the Congress and the American people, whether Israel in fact possesses nuclear weapons?
You know that's a question that they've never acknowledged to have a nuclear program. People can have, as you know, in open source and other reporting, suspicions about what they possess. If we're speaking frankly, I think most of the world assesses that they do, but they've never acknowledged that publicly and as a feature of our...
See how he's strained with a we, they? Because he keeps trying to instinctively say we, and he keeps going to they. because we includes him. So he's pointing to they, the royal they, the United States government, the administration, the whatever. This is their policy. They're like they. But he keeps accidentally saying we and then having to correct himself to they. I just find that interesting.
Foreign policy for a variety of reasons. We don't discuss it in that way either.
Well, I guess a few things. This is the first time, especially for an extended period, that we are at war with an ally, Israel, against Iran. And we have service members deployed. And we don't, if they in fact possess nuclear weapons, and you're right, in open source reporting that has come across, we don't know what their red lines are for using those nuclear weapons. And so I guess I'm shocked that our government wouldn't make an effort to know, to understand, and then to give our oversight body the information that we need to make decisions about the war as well.
That's a fair observation, and I would answer that if perhaps you make that request and you're open to it being answered in a different setting other than a public
Classified
letter.
setting? A classified setting?
Yes, and both classified and sensitive. And if we could, I think you would get a better response to your question if the context in which it was answered were framed differently than a public letter for a variety of reasons. If we're being mature and grown up here, I mean, foreign policy, and I know that you are, and you, from the tone of your question, it's clear that it's a serious question. These things require delicate balancing acts between different equities, but I think you can get probably a more fulsome answer if we were to be able to respond to that inquiry in a different context, if that makes sense.
Mr. Secretary, I'll certainly take you up on that, and I appreciate your answer.
Okay, so it's classified. It's classified. Well, that nuclear-armed nation is out there murdering all their neighbors. So, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned, all the same as Representative Castro is, and I think you guys should be too. And pretty much anybody in the Middle East definitely should be fucking concerned as they continue their campaign of destruction. Israeli attacks kill 9 in Lebanon as new ceasefire doesn't stop strikes. Wednesday evening, it was announced that Israel and Lebanon agreed to a new ceasefire. Ooh, there's a new ceasefire this week. Officials, of course, have been reporting that there has been a ceasefire between the two sides since mid-April, but several hundred people have been killed in the fighting that's gone on during that ceasefire. This latest deal was described as a very minimalist ceasefire. And in fact, Israel and Lebanon agreed that Hezbollah would stop resisting the ongoing Israeli invasion of Lebanon. Stop resisting. Yeah, and withdraw their forces further north in the country. Hezbollah wasn't involved in the talks and quickly rejected the terms. So Hezbollah wasn't even involved in the talks, and then but Israel and Lebanon agreed that Hezbollah would stop. Yeah, totally. But Hezbollah said, no, we won't stop. The deal was controversial, which, I mean, frankly, they kind of shouldn't. That wouldn't make any sense. Like, oh, yeah, we'll just cede all this land to you. Sure. All of southern Lebanon that you are literally destroying. The people and the land, the buildings. That's why Hezbollah exists, guys. The deal was controversial in Israel, with National Secretary Mr. Itamar Ben-Gvir denounced the very idea of a ceasefire and pushed for more military operations in Lebanon. Those operations are continuing under the pretense of a ceasefire, of course, with Israel having killed at least 9 people since the deal was announced. This included these 5 civilians slain in the Bekaa Valley. Apparently, the attacks that Israel carried out fell short of a major new ground offensive the IDF was advocating, and which Defense Minister Israeli Katz and Ben-Gvir reportedly endorsed. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly balked at the plan because the U.S. has been discouraging further escalation. The plan seems to be for Israel to continue striking Lebanon at more or less the present level, which has killed several hundred Lebanese since mid-April, with some vague conditions that Hezbollah would stop opposing the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem said the group would not honor any deals so long as Israeli troops continue to occupy Lebanese territory, calling for a complete ceasefire that included an Israeli withdrawal from the south, which is perfectly fucking reasonable. Moving on to another one of their murder locations, over to Gaza City. Israeli airstrikes pound apartments over there, killing 9, including 2 women and 2 children. So overnight Israeli airstrikes. So someone chime up Dave Rubin. Hey, another day, 3 days in a row, there's been bombs on Gaza. Isn't that fucking crazy? He was blown away. He was fucking blown away. What you think bombing? They're bombing in Gaza still? They're bombing in Gaza? Yes, you fucking idiot. So here's 9 more people dead from said bombings as they continue to violate their ceasefire. The ceasefire that's backed by the United States. We're the third party there. According to the Palestinian news agency WAFA, at least 15 other people were injured by attacks which hit 4 separate apartment buildings. The Al-Shifa hospital, which received the bodies, said the dead included 2 women and 2 children. By the way, I want to throw it out there. Open offer. If anyone tags me on Twitter, you will get my 11 or 12,000 followers or whatever I got. I will give you that boost. I will retweet it if you make a daily occurrence of just reminding Dave Rubin when there has been a bomb in Gaza. Just make it a regular. Even quote tweet the previous one just to make it an ongoing chain. And maybe even make the original tweet the video of him. And then from every there, it's just a quote tweet, maybe with an article attached or something. I would retweet every single one of those every single time. I would make the tweet myself, but I have been blocked by Rubin for ratioing the absolute fucking shit out of him way back in the day. But anyways, back to the murdered over in Gaza. We will not focus on the gay Jews murdered in Hollywood or wherever the hell he is. They say the war has stopped, but the war has not stopped. Walid Shabir, the uncle of one of the men killed in the strikes, told the Associated Press. Every night there is killing, and we have martyrs every night, in the morning, in the evening, and at night. This killing is continuous for us. Israeli strikes continued throughout the day on Thursday, with Wafa reporting 7 Palestinians wounded by Israeli airstrike. There's another bomb in Gaza City. A separate drone attack in Gaza City killed at least 1 Palestinian and injured others. Gaza Health Ministry said earlier in the day that it recorded the Israeli killing of 11 Palestinians and the wounding of 32 over the previous 24-hour period. A number of victims are still under the rubble and in the streets as ambulance and civil defense crews have been unable to reach them so far, the ministry wrote on Telegram. Since the so-called ceasefire deal was signed in October 2025, Israeli attacks have killed 947 Palestinians and wounded 2,935, according to the ministry's numbers. Israel has also violated the deal by taking over more territory in Gaza, and Netanyahu recently said he directed the IDF to increase the IDF-occupied part of the Strip from 60% of the territory to 70%, which, keep in mind that even that initial 60% was a breaking of the ceasefire, since the initial agreed upon was 53%, and they've just kind of moved their yellow line as time goes on, as was ever so predictable. But with that, we're done with our foreign policy coverage for today. Let's roll in the chat, say some good mornings, say some hellos, and we'll get out of this murder news. Get into how they're subverting libertarianism. Good morning, John Black. Wait, this isn't where I parked my car. He says. Said I heard Amazon MGM Grand is 3 weeks away from gaining a nuclear weapon. I don't know if that's a joke of some sort, but I haven't heard that. Good morning, that one chick, Chris. Good morning, saying what's good, Jose, and hello to everyone. Hello to you. Good morning, Gavin Gomez. Good morning, Che Coho. Good morning, Axe Hammer. It says, why doesn't Congress ask the Israeli ambassador if Israel has nukes? Well, I don't know if this is a joke. The Israeli ambassador... Well, I guess it's the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., a U.S. ambassador to Israel. If you're saying ask Mike Huckabee, that's rich, because that is our ambassador to Israel. I'm not sure who the ambassador from Israel to the U.S. is, so I guess maybe that's who you're talking about. But, it says Democrats don't care about issues. They only want to spend 4 years with mindless orange man, bad chaos, and stop any progress. Oh, okay, so you weren't being sarcastic, I think. At least that's my interpretation. This is kind of... No, that was a completely fair question by the Democrat. Why doesn't he ask the Israeli ambassador? I don't know, because what doesn't... what's his face? What roles is Rubio holding right now? Let's look this up real quick, because it makes sense to ask him. You might be right. There might have been people who are better to ask, but he is currently the National Security Advisor, so I think it's pretty fair to ask that to the National Security Advisor. What else is he? I see he's also the Secretary of State. I feel like that. So yeah, I think those are the two, because I know he's dual wielding cabinet positions right now. So because we had that one guy from the whole Signal Gate thing that they got kicked out, and he took his place. The last person to do this, I believe, was Kissinger, the last person to hold both these positions. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty fair question to ask Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, who's also the National Security Advisor. I mean, it may even be debatably more appropriate to ask him than some ambassador to Israel or or Israel's ambassador to the U.S., whoever you meant there. But sure, that'd be an apt question for them as well, but perfectly fair for Mark Rubio. So, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, this has also been a problem since essentially the 70s. So like, I don't know. I feel like the impression here is like they only want to spend 4 years. Like this has been an ongoing thing, kind of a big deal too, especially we're in a war right now. The whole premise of the war is we need to stop them getting nukes. And even though they're like, we don't want nukes, we're not going to have nukes. They're like, well, they totally secretly want to have nukes. Meanwhile, the person really most interested in going after Iran, really pushing us to go after Iran and working with us to get Iran, almost certainly secretly has nukes. So a little bit of a big deal here. I don't know if we could just, I don't know if, and you're saying the Democrats just want to do yada yada for 4 years. It's like, I don't know, this is kind of important right now. So, I mean, I think it's pretty fair here. I mean, I like to shit on Democrats as much as the next one, but good morning, Mr. Woke Reich. I think it's the first time I'm seeing you here. It says, Lebanon has the highest proportion of Christian population in the Middle East, but brain rot, Fox News, boomers don't care. Slob that Jew knob, goys. Yeah, you are correct. Unfortunately, Hubert says John Black was making homosexual advances towards me. Good morning, Tom Chin. Good morning. Saying court jester more like. I don't know what you're referring to there. Maybe you're referring to Marco. I get it. All right, I think we're all caught up. All right, let's get into our first named or titled segment of the day, Satanic Libertarian Inversion. Kind of what inspired this. I mean, it's kind of been something I've thinking about a lot. I think it's really, especially with the teal stuff and the moving and him going over to where Malay is, to Argentina, and other notable libertarian who's kind of subverted the ideology in many ways, particularly in regards to his bringing endorsement of Zionism. And also with that, I have a piece from Reason, libertarians, purported libertarians, from Reason magazine about essentially how anti-Zionism is just like repackaged Jew hatred. So got a few different examples of essentially I call it Satanic Libertarian Inversion, but like a more of a subversion of libertarianism. Like, for example, with Teal, I just find it incredibly, inversion's the best way to look at it. Like when you have someone like a Peter Thiel who looks like he's almost certainly probably acquiring essentially a private state from Malay, and at the same time so is Israel, and there's already somebody who has a private state there. I just find something weird. Inversion's probably the best way to explain it with somebody like a Teal, if they have essentially what many would think of as like an ANCAP aspiration, a private state. If he owns a private state while at the same time he is a part of another state in which he is very much a prime part of the bureaucracy, part of what makes, he is the state in many ways. I mean, he's not like the state, like he's not like a whole, but he is a part of the state. He is basically synonymous with the state. He's a subset of the state, and he essentially taking that power from the state that he's acquired, taking that money, that influence, et cetera, and taking that to go create a state. It's just this weird inversion. Like as he's subjugating people, he's creating something that he's trying to be like, herder, this is a private state. Like, first off, where the fuck do you get off calling that private? I'm not saying that he's even saying that is the case, but anyone saying that is the case, this guy has created pretty much the entirety of his wealth off of government contracts, and he is basically synonymous with the CIA. So yeah, there's obviously like an inversion of sorts going on here. I feel like game is being run on us. They're trying to trick us like, oh, this is just free, this is just capitalist, libertarianist, and to start off this conversation, like I said, we have this Reason piece. Friend of the show, Joe at Burn the Lies, says repackaged as he's quote tweeting the Reason article here. The article, they essentially, the caption of their article is repackaged as anti-Zionism, an ancient hatred poses a fundamental danger to us all. Then Joe says, repackages libertarianism. Reason defends genocidal Jewish supremacist states and calls anyone opposed to it anti-Semitic. So with that, let's get into this reason piece. Haven't read this yet. We're going through it for the first time. Let's see what they got to say. This was written by J.D. Tusil. Over on the first, it says, surging anti-Semitism threatens Jews in America. This is in Santa Monica, California last week. A Jewish couple was attacked by a man with a vicious dog and a baseball bat. Several weeks ago, synagogues and homes were vandalized with swastikas in New York City. And then a mob hostile to the Jewish state of Israel clashed with Jews outside a synagogue in Brooklyn. As disturbing as those incidents were, they paled in comparison to the fiery attack on a Michigan synagogue in April, the murder of 2 Israeli embassy staffers last May, and other violent crimes. These incidents come against a backdrop of revived anti-Semitism, or to give it its proper name, Jew hatred around the world. In the United States, re-mainstreaming of Jew hatred began among popular influences like far-left Hassan Piker and far-right Nick Fuentes, but is now spreading among regular Americans. Few office holders are as openly bigoted, holy shit, they're laying this one hard, as Representative Ilhan Omar, who constantly voices anti-Jewish and anti-Israel statements before walking them back. Increasingly, though, Jewish lawmakers complain of an explosion of anti-Semitism directed at them by the public, as recently reported by Axios and Andrew Solander. It's likely to get worse. In April, Pew Research polling revealed that 60% of U.S. adults have an unfavorable view of Israel, up from 53% last year, particularly among Democrats and younger Americans. You see how they smuggle that in there? They're like how they do the old bait and switch from Jew to Israel, which, I mean, admittedly, I will admit there is like a correlation, obviously, but I just find that funny. Like, oh, look at this poll of people saying they have unfavorable view of Israel. Let me tell you about how Jew hatred is taken off across the world. And you're like, wait, what's going on here? How did you, like, okay. Examining the fall 2025 Yale Youth Poll, Samuel Abrams and Steve Cohen of the American Enterprise Institute found that respondents who oppose Israel's existence were far more likely to agree that Jews in the United States are more loyal to Israel than to America. We're far more likely to agree that Jews... Yeah, what the fuck is this? What kind of stupid... Okay, so what a fucking crazy poll. And to bring this out as like an argument of like, oh, look, Jew hatred. You're like, so like... All right, anyways, let me finish the quote here. They were far more likely to support boycotting Jewish American-owned businesses in response to the war in Gaza, a form of collective punishment aimed explicitly at Jews as Jews. Okay. Wow. And they were far more likely to agree that Jews have too much power in American society, one of the most enduring anti-Semitic canards. Okay, well, that's holy shit, there's a lot going on there. All right, so this little this poll is being brought. They're bringing out these different poll questions and like using these to support their argument here of how Jew hatred and like how essentially Jew hatred is basically synonymous with anti-Zionism. They are different. And then even then on top of all that, like now this comes back to like how are you defining Jewish? If you're defining it as like an ethnic group, why? First off, but anyways. If you're defining it as a religious group, it's like, well, then you're just talking about belief systems. So, like, so what? Like, okay. Anyways, so anyway, back to breaking down this poll here. This is wild. So, one of the ones they brought up is that Jews are more likely to be loyal to, are more loyal to Israel than to America. We're far more likely to agree. Respondents who oppose Israel's existence were far more likely to agree that Jews in the United States are more loyal to Israel than to America. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I misread that at first. I thought they were saying that it was more likely that Jews would be loyal to Israel. It's a higher likelihood. Like people, like that was a question that was asked. Like, are Jews more likely to support Israel than other non-Jewish members? Like, well, duh. They are also far more likely to support boycotting Jewish American-owned businesses. So this seems like them kind of playing. Obviously, this sounds like some BTS stuff is what they're talking about. They're talking about essentially boycotting businesses, which, yes, they're like Jewish American. Oh, no, they're boycotting Jewish American-owned businesses. But it's like, I mean, yeah, maybe some people would just be literally like going, oh, we're just going to ban all Jewish American-owned businesses. But they literally have like lists and like the people get really into like BTS and stuff like that, laying out like those that are connected to Israel. So it's like, this is a game that they play. Like, oh, they're boycotting Jewish American-owned businesses. Like, are they? Or is it just so happened that they're boycotting groups that finances are in some way contributing to Israel's existence or essentially in any way financially contributing to Israel? Because if you're financially contributing to Israel, you are contributing to the death and destruction of Gaza, Lebanon, hell, Syria, Iran. Like, it goes on and on. So totally get it why people are like, hey, I don't want to give my money to these businesses that are in any way, shape, or form helping finance this. And you know what? Who typically is going to be the ones doing that are going to be Jewish American-owned businesses. So, I mean, it seems like they're kind of playing with us with categorization errors a little bit on purpose. Very much so. So, I don't know. It seems like they're playing quick and fast with the way they're asking questions. To frame it as boycotting, like as if they're like it's collective punishment against Jews. Unless you're saying all Jews support the rampant murder of, or even up to including with their finances of people over in the Middle East, then sure, if that's how you're defining Jews, then yeah, sure, I guess it is collective punishment against Jews. But it says more about you, I think, at that point. So now some of the revived animus against Jews is open and explicit, but much of it is barely camouflaged as anti-Zionism, implying hostility to Israel and not to all Jews. Apologists for this tactic point to a recent poll finding that only a minority of American Jews identify themselves as Zionists, which they claim means attacking Israel isn't bigotry. But the same poll finds that 88% of Jews believe Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish democratic state, which is the definition of Zionism. As Zionist has become a slur, Jews have backed away from the world, but not from support for the world's sole majority Jewish country and home for almost half of all Jews that it represents. Or as AEI's Abrams and Cohen concluded, the claim that anti-Israel activism bears no relationship to anti-Semitism is no longer merely unconvincing, is empirically false. Well, yeah, no shit. Like, of course there's a relationship, like, as we kind of laid out there, like, but this is retarded. The claim that anti-Israel activism bears no relationship to anti-Semitism is no longer merely unconvincing. Yeah, of course that's false. Obviously, anti-Israel activism is going to have a relationship. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean by relationship? Yeah, there is like crossover, I guess you could say. Obviously, like if you were someone against the death, if you're against what's going on in the Middle East, as being carried out by Israel, and you do not want to contribute to that. Like if you're against that, if you're also someone who is explicitly against Jews out there in the world, you just hate Jews for whatever, just specifically just Jews, like that's your thing. Yeah, there's going to be a fuckload of crossover. Like, duh, this is a country that is essentially a Jewish state that is carrying out a genocide and mass murder on pretty much all of its neighbors. So it's like, well, yeah, no shit, there's a fucking relationship, you stupid fuck. Attacking Zionists really is a proxy for attacking Jews, as if we wouldn't guess that from the violence and vandalism directed at synagogues and Jewish-owned businesses. Which, by the way, I never covered this, but there was this, there was a protest a while back in New York City, and I'm mixing together two different ones, but I think it might have been, no, never mind, I'm mixing up two different ones. But anyways, there was a protest, and it became this whole big thing where they were acting like, these protesters are going after synagogues or whatever. Well, they were literally doing like a sale there. They were selling off land in the West Bank at that fucking place. You know, a fucking international crime. Like they're literally selling stolen goods at a synagogue, and so it's like it's a little different than just religious activities. Like sure, if you're calling that religious activities, well, then, I don't know, you're just making the case that maybe you should hate Jews, if that's the argument you're making. So, anyways, while every government is subject to criticism for its conduct, reframing hatred of Jews as exaggerated concern about the existence of a foreign state is a convenient way to tailor an ancient hatred for modern sensibilities. Okay, they always use, ancient hatred. Why? And once again, I'd say there's probably plenty of Jews I like. I mean, I may be like, why are you defining yourself as a Jew? But yeah, it kind of makes you wonder why. Why is there an ancient hatred? Why is it ancient? I don't know of any other people that have an ancient hatred. Do you? I mean, yeah, okay, so it depends on how do you define ancient. I guess there's some communities that really don't like others, like Like the North Koreans really hate the Japanese because I think they were occupied by them for a long period of time. But generally speaking, if we're talking like millennia, I can't really think of any other group. Can you? And once again, this is a religious group. Religions are just a system of beliefs. That's all they are. Some beliefs are bad. So just saying, I know it gets a little bit complicated with the modern conception of what Judaism is or Jewishness is, since it gets kind of obscured by ethnicity, yada, yada, yada. But like, sorry, miss me with that gay ancient hatred nonsense. Like, why? You can't just throw that out there and it goes, ancient hatred. Oh, for a belief system? I wonder what they believe. If we think about the core libels of anti-Zionism today, colonizers, apartheid, and genocide, they're really just the inverse values of the moral codes of our time, says anthropologist Adam Louis Klein. They're not necessarily talking about Jews having big noses or controlling the banks. Some do, but they don't have to. So they say, well, it's not anti-Semitic. And their intuition is somewhat justified as long as we're associating anti-Semitism only with its older forms. He points out that anti-Semitism originated as a self-identifying term among Jew haters meant to convert ancient bigotry into a racialized 19th century ideology. The term anti-Zionism again reinvents the same bigotry for the 21st century, that reframing has deep roots in efforts by totalitarian governments to reshape morality. An April report, the Network Contagion Research Institute examined how totalitarians engage in inversion of morality, reframing tyranny as justice and evil as righteous action to influence public opinion. Yeah, I agree with you there, but I have a feeling you're going to go a different place with it. It's funny enough. That's a good way of putting this whole segment right here we're doing here. The theme here, the topic, it's about an inversion of morality that reframes its tyranny as justice and evil as righteous action, i.e. the inversion of libertarianism, much of what I would consider reason to be. We focus in part on anti-Israel ideology, which played a central role in earlier anti-Western propaganda systems, including Soviet and Nazi campaigns, because the same narratives have reemerged today under the banner of anti-Zionism. Appealing to the idea of a universal human rights for its legitimacy, the current anti-Zionist ideology presents itself as morally principled and anti-oppressive. Many modern mouthpieces for Jew hatred don't even disguise their totalitarian connections. Hassan Piker endorses communism and says, China is probably the closest, I would say, to an example that we should follow. Yeah, he's a retarded lefty. Nick Fuentes manages to simultaneously praise both Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, which, once again, to his praise. I mean, I'm not a Fuentes fan, but his praises were more about like how they were great men of history. He wasn't really endorsing their activities, reinforcing the fact there's little point in differentiating among brands of totalitarianism. Ironically, researchers find that much funding for anti-Zionist groups in the U.S. comes from Qatar, from a network linked to the Chinese Communist Party that's managed by Neville Singham, a wealthy socialist who made his money in the U.S. and then moved to Shanghai. So much for arguments by bigots who allege that Jews have divided loyalties between Israel and the U.S. At least Israel, like America, has open debates in elections. China and Qatar does not. Okay. Yeah. We have open debates. Yeah, we really have an open debate in this country on the largest platforms on that specific topic. Sure. I guess that comes back to, ooh, no, the Jews control the media. Look at him saying that. Oh, what an anti-Semite. The reemergence of Jew hatred is worrying for Jews, their friends, and their families for obvious reasons. But revived collectivist animus toward a group should concern everybody. Historically, Jews have been an easy target for bigots who change only the rhetoric they use to justify their actions. But once one group is vilified, it's easy to extend collective hatred to other groups that can be singled out for ill treatment. The bigotry that threatens Jews undermines the whole individualist liberal order. Enemies of the U.S. recognize the threat. Western societies, as NCRI pointed out in April, are based on principles and liberties enshrined by pluralistic liberal democracies, among them freedom of speech, equality under the law, tolerance of difference, individual rights and freedom, the rule of law, and free, fair, and regular elections in a representative democracy. Reviving collective hatred and framing it as a righteous movement undermines the philosophical foundations of our freedom. By whatever name Jew hatred is back, it's a threat to Jews, but it's also a danger to a liberal society and the values that underlie the free, individualistic American way of life. And while we're kind of in the same theme, I told you the teal, like the teal topic is kind of what really got my head spinning or thinking about this like inversion of libertarianism thing. Well, just the other day when we covered the moving of teal to Argentina, we at one point covered this. We made reference to this article from Whitney Webb of another billionaire, or essentially on how Argentina is essentially already had states or private states or parallel states or whatever you want to call them in Argentina over in Patagonia, which funny enough, there have been a lot of fires recently. So a lot of people have pieced those two things together. But essentially, she provided an example of someone who's already done exactly this. What many people are surmising, Thiel's probably going to do something very similar. He's moving there. I mean, he's a powerful man connected to the Trump administration. Malay, they claim to share a similar philosophy and have similar connections. I don't feel like it's that crazy to think perhaps he could get the hookup for something, especially since there's already an example of someone who's gotten such said hookup. And I figured we'd take a moment to dig a little bit into this one. He is Joe Lewis. This is who we're going to be, I figured we'd at least read a little bit of this piece from Whitney Webb over at Mint Press News, written back in 2019, March 11th. If you're to read the first little bit to allow us to get an idea of what perhaps like something like a Thiel may be attempting to pursue over in Argentina. So it says, El Bolson, Argentina. At the end of the world, spanning the southernmost regions of Argentina and Chile, lies the land of Patagonia, much of which remains a pristine wilderness that inspired countless naturalists. Oops, one second, I actually clicked out of it. Countless naturalists and would-be adventurers with dramatic landscapes and natural beauty. For many, it's a place that still feels remarkably untouched and removed from the chaos of the modern world. Yes, it is these very qualities, as well as the region's great oil and gas potential and its abundance for glacier-led freshwater reserves, that have placed it in the crosshairs of predators armed with billions of dollars, powerful influence over Argentine politics and the country's press, as well as alliances with controversial international financial organizations and key elements of the global Zionist body. The global Zionist lobby, coveted for its still largely unplundered resources, Patagonia has become the target of a close-knit network of notorious billionaires and global elites who have spent much of the last 2.5 decades seeking to transform this area into their own independent state. Indeed, through several of these billionaires have already created the de facto private states where they enjoy near total impunity with Argentine Patagonia, others have been behind major efforts that have pushed for the territory's succession, while still others have pushed Argentina's government to exchange its claim to Patagonia for debt relief as a way of easing Argentina's economic plight that, incidentally, was largely created by this very same group of billionaires. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, for those who understand what that is, that's a big deal, whose connections to this billionaire network are considerable, has had an outsized role in this effort. Yet this appears to be... Actually, let's look that up real quick. I want to let you guys know. International... I think that's the one that's the Zionist... the Zionist one, right? That's International Monetary Fund. So, monetary... There we go. Let me look that up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let me see... International Financial Institution of Specialized Agents of the UN. No, I was mixing it up with something else. Either way, it's some large globalist monetary fund of some sort. I thought it was specifically the Zionist one. Indeed, though several of these billionaires have already created... Oh, I already read that paragraph. Yet this appears to be more than just a venture on the behalf of notable oligarchs and the global elite, as prominent elements of the international Zionist lobby are intimately involved, as is the state of Israel, though the extent of the involvement of the latter is subject to debate. Keep in mind, this was written in 2019. We're in 2026. We just covered the other day about how Malay and Netanyahu are working together to bring hundreds of thousands of Israelis to their own little state of sorts over in Argentina, along with this Joe Lewis guy and Peter Thiel. So it's getting a little bit crowded over there. So on the point of how she's mentioning, the extent of their involvement is subject to debate. Well, it's looking a little bit more solid now, 7 years later. Their interest revolves around claims that date back to the founding of Zionists in the 19th century, when revered Zionist figures like Theodor Herzl discuss Argentina as a potential homeland for a Jewish ethno-state. Since then, other notable Zionists, including past Israeli ambassadors to Argentina, have argued that Israel is for European Jews, while American Jews must take Argentina for themselves. Notably, the method suggested by Herzl as a means of creating a Zionist state in his seminal work, The Jewish State, involves the exchange of debt for territory. In the first part of this investigative series, Mint Press News explores the de facto independent state that has been created by British billionaire and Zionist Joe Lewis, a longtime associate of controversial Hungarian-American financier George Soros. Lewis has essentially brought out the local, regional, and even national government of Argentina, allowing him to operate with impunity while he acquires more and more territory through land purchases of dubious, if any, legality, intimidates and threatens locals, usurps crucial water and energy resources from local towns, and operates his own international private airport that no one but he controls. So even then, it sounds like they have people there, and they're also encroaching on other people. So it's funny, it's like this like private state thing of sorts. But even then, it's like I could see the billionaires, Ayn Randian billionaires, selling this as private states. But it's like you're just creating another state. Like, it's not even really that private per se. You bought it. Like, and it's the same argument the Zionists use for like the Balfour Declaration. Like, well, they declared it was from us and the British had it. Like, no, they didn't. I mean, the British bought it improperly from the person they bought it before them. So it's like all not like legit. Like, that's not like, especially when you're talking about like was it the Ottoman Empire? Like, the way the Ottoman Empire managed their land was completely improper. And so for them to then sell it to somebody else, like, that was like, it wasn't Britain's. So it looks like we're seeing the same thing as well. So there's like billionaire just gives a bunch of money to some fucking leader of a country, and then now yada yada, here you are. Now you have this area that other people also seem to live on, perhaps. So it kind of just seems like essentially you're just creating another state, basically a little baby state, like kind of within another state. So subsequent reports in the series will examine other key players in this effort to create a Patagonian state, namely Argentine oligarchs Marcelo Mindlin and Eduardo Elstein, who are both deeply connected to the global Zionist lobby and the Rockefeller-founded American Society, and are also both close Soros associates. Finally, the role of these individuals and their associates in efforts to use IMF debt slavery to pressure the Argentine government to swap debt for territory will be revealed, as will the role of the Zionist lobby and prominent figures in the global elite. I'm not going to read this whole piece because it is long, but you guys go check it on your own. I just kind of wanted to give you a feel for kind of who was, I guess, the proto version of what seems to be going on over there. This Joe Lewis guy about 7 years ago. But with that, this guy 7 years ago, we have even all the way back in 1974. Time is a flat circle. There's nothing new under the sun. This isn't the first time they've operated in such a way, even so far as using libertarian aesthetics to do so. Here's once again another dope banger from RJ Morrow at Toxic Tiramisu with a bit about, it says right here, in 1974, ex-CIA Mitch Werbel III joined libertarian Michael Oliver, who wanted to create a tax-free nation in Abaco, Isis, Bahamas, with casinos, resorts, housing for wealthy U.S. immigrants. Oliver hired Werbel to train mercenary/CIA agents for a secessionist coup on Abaco Island. So let's go through some of this literature he has provided here. Let me see if I can find a source real quick so you guys know where it's coming from. Source is Spooks, The Haunting of America, The Private Use of Secret Agents by Jim Hoogan. So let's read this bit. I'm just going to read, I'll retweet it for those who want to go check it on their own time, at Terragang Jose, because I'm not going to read every little bit here. It's mostly just the highlighted portions. It says 1974 began auspiciously for Mitch Werbel. Ousted 2 years earlier as head of the Military Armaments Corporation, he was surviving splendidly as chief of a new firm, Defense Service Incorporated, operated from offices on the farm. DSI was blessed with limited overhead, little capital debt, and a whacking inventory of silenced machine guns given to Werbel in exchange for his interest in the Quantum Corporation. Selling the guns in competition with his former firm was a lucrative business, with American collectors and third world intelligence services providing fairly regular custom. But arms dealing was far from Werbel's only interest in the time. Paramilitary advice was one of the services offered by DSI, and the firm had acquired a most interesting client. Michael Oliver, a displaced Lithuanian with a Where are you, Papos? Accent. I think I probably fucked that up. And right-wing ideology to match was a new Nevada resident with a dream and the money to make it come true. What Oliver wanted was nothing less than his own country, a land governed according to libertarian principles. Money would be minted privately and backed by gold, with a contract government performing only the minimal services. Here's more. It says, infatuated with the gold bug theories of crank economist Ludwig von Mises. Hey, fuck you to whoever wrote this. I'm just kidding. I guess Hugin. I don't really know. I've heard Hugin's name before in this realm. I'm assuming he was not an ANCAP like I. I put respect on Ludwig von Mises' name, but hey, fair. We all have our own. But this guy did not. But it makes sense this guy would like Mises, though. And with the term positivism, and with the stern positivism of Ayn Rand, Oliver fixed upon the Bahamas' Abacos for the site of his future utopia. An independent Abaco, organized in conformity with the libertarian principles enunciated in his book, might become a tropical Zurich, attracting flight capital from throughout the hemisphere, casino gambling, resorts, schools, sewers, roads, and housing developments for wealthy American immigrants. So this would be Americans moving there. So if you're imagining like a current version of, say, with like a Peter Thiel, if this is the route they went, who are these wealthy immigrants making? It sounds like they're kind of making a new Saudi Arabia, like these Gulf countries that their shit's been fucked up. It looks like this could end up becoming like a haven for the ultra rich, kind of like somewhere like that does. Which Austin the other day was telling me, apparently if you look at like a map, I don't know how true this is, there's something he told me. If you're looking like a map of like where nukes can hit different places, Argentina is, I guess, one of the few places like kind of like outside that little like circle of where you see like the range of nukes of different nuclear powered countries. So might be something worth thinking about. Oliver's track to become the new country's constitution, and he would himself begin minting money in a denomination called the Rand. In gold pieces named for the novelist, the Rand would be the world's hardest currency. So yeah, seemingly going after the Ayn Randian, something Gulch? Was it Gulch? Why can't I think of his name? Whatever. Was it? Why can't I think of it? Somebody in the chat will correct me. But the Ayn Randian, it's not the Fountainhead. It's what is it? What's the big one? Not Fountainhead. The other book that I can't believe I can't think of it right now. But essentially in that book, the hero of the story creates his own like essentially Randian haven, where it's really bugging me. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, it's like Randian utopia of sorts where the rich and wealthy go and create their own little state, and it works out perfectly well, yada, yada. Well, unfortunately, I think this is one of the drawbacks of Rand. She did not put enough emphasis on state power and how that leaks into some of the ultra-wealthy when it comes to, states or so-called private actors in bed with the state. So I think you end up with a little bit of a weird situation like we may be looking at with the Teal sort of thing right now. Moving on, continuing. Says before Abaco, Michael Oliver spent around $100,000 trying to build the Republic of Minerva on a South Pacific reef, but Tonga's king sent prisoners with spears to drive them out. Without an army, the project collapsed. Oliver then turned to the Bahamas and hired ex-CIA Mitch Werbel III. It says, while doing so, they sent a written declaration to the world's governments. Oh, let me start over. To Oliver and a consortium of wealthy libertarians, the reef was a thing of beauty. The future Republic of Minerva, using the foundation as their conduit, the group poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into an effort to create a 400-acre island on the reef's highest points. While doing so, they sent a written declaration to the world's governments declaring sovereignty for their ocean landfill. Immediately, Tonga's 325-pound patriarch, King Tufa Ahau, leaped into action, promising unconditional amnesty to the inmates of Tonga's jail. Tafa Ahas ordered his Polynesian miscreants to invade the new domain, evict the libertarians, and plant the flag of Tonga in the coral. Oliver was embittered by the loss, but there's nothing he could do about it. That the Republic of Minerva had been a country without land was an obstacle he'd been prepared to overcome. But a nation without an army, confronted by scores of flag-waving Tongan felons armed with spears, stood no case. Accordingly, the consortium abandoned the motherland, returning to an enforced exile in Orange County, California. Anticipating the imminent financial collapse of the West with resultant bloodshed and the emergence of iron rule from America, Oliver urged his readers to emigrate without ever telling them where. The closest he came to doing so was to write that one has but to look at the Western Hemisphere to find that places for establishing a new fair-sized country still exist. Mitch Werble contacted Scottish Commando and MP Colonel Mad Mitch Mitchell and Lord Belhaven to secure England's neutrality, while at Washington's meeting, CIA veterans, freelance spooks, and libertarian idealists agreed on a New Year's revolution on January 1st, 1975. Getting back in the literature here, it says, meanwhile, Werble dispatched former CIA officer Walt Macomb to an undercover assignment on the island. His job was to gather intelligence while posing as a tourist, serve as island contract for the New Country Project, engage the natives' changing attitudes toward independence. In Britain, Werble made contact with Colonel Colin Mitchell, a Scottish commando who was also a member of Parliament and an authority on sapper attacks. It was Mad Mitch's job and the task of the suave Robert Hamilton, Baron of Belhaven and Stratton, to wrest a promise from the House of Lords that England would not intervene in Abaco's impending secession. Pindling's pathetic gendarmerie would be no match for Werble's platoons of mercenaries and killer Dixie thugs, especially in meetings at Duke Zeibert's restaurant. The class reunion war in Werble's $95 suite at Washington's Hay Adams Hotel. CIA veterans, freelance spooks, and libertarian idealists agreed upon a New Year's revolution to begin January 1st, 1975. Mitchell was subpoenaed by the Senate over his plans to sell 2,000 Silence Ingrams to Robert Vesco, while on the same day his son and his own company, Defense Services Incorporated, were indicted for gun trafficking, putting the Abaco invasion on hold. This is alleging a conspiracy to make an illegal transfer of 2,000 submachine guns to an ATF undercover agent at the Travelodge Motel near Powder Springs. The indictment was a product of a non-investigation that yielded virtually no evidence. It was due to be laughed at court, but it served its purpose. Nevertheless, sub judice, Werble could not be made to talk, even if he wanted to. Coming as it did only 3 months later before the liberation of Abaco, the indictment and Senate subpoena effectively put the invasion on the back burner. Werble was just too hot. Beside the New Country Project, the Georgian appeared to be dabbling in DEA wet jobs, and the Senate had learned of that as well. So, yeah. Now that's Mitch Werble and his involvement in trying to create tobacco ISIS. Now, Mitch Werble is, funny enough, where we titled this segment Satanic Libertarian Inversion. Mitch Werble is a spooky fella. If you're someone who's paid attention to parapolitics for a while, you may have noticed him. I believe he even comes up in like the Atlanta murder. He comes up in so many different like parapolitical things, and he is, it's pretty common to find him associated with the occult, weirdly enough, too. So does even more so fit just with his name. For those who aren't aware of him, go look into Mitch Werble III. You'll be blown away. Weird dude. A lot of crazy stories out there. With that, let's roll into chat, say some hellos, more good mornings, and then let's get into our last segment after that, and then we'll get on out of here. We'll talk a little bit about the Pierce Pedo Nexus. JC says, all these elites want rules for thee, not for me. It's really that simple. That's all these private microstates come down to. Yeah, they're literally just trying to make like pedo states and stuff, it seems. Tony Chin says, I've been listening to every show on Spotify. At some point, YouTube stopped notifying me when your show is live. Well, I would recommend you go check and make sure you have that bell selected so you get those notifications. But I wouldn't be surprised if you do, because YouTube is gay like that. So sorry. Good morning, Mary Andrews. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you here. Good morning, Oxtail. Good morning. Good morning. Oxtail says, I think modern Judaism's that's currency is moral bankruptcy, which is a crazy oxymoron. The more Jewish you are, the more you are a tool for the genocidal state of Israel in order to be Jewish. Now, to be fair, there's obviously different conceptions of this. So there are like Jews who don't agree with that, but like there's many Jews that would agree with you that like obviously Israel is like part and parcel, of their belief. Like, yes, you have to support Israel to be a good Jew. So yeah, that is, yeah, many of them say that. I guess, like I said though, obviously there's people that may not be, may not fall into that, but yeah. JMS saying Patagonian giants. Is that a thing? Is that a conspiracy? Patagonian giants? It sounds familiar enough. Oxtail again says you have to be a full-fledged devotion to Jewish ideology because it's such an ancient, corrupt religion. There's a reason why the Zohar exists. It's the reason Frankism exists. The religion is crap. I mean, I don't claim to be any expert on it, but I have not been impressed. So, good morning, LTD, saying happy belated Killdozer day, babes. Nice. Good morning, Fundy. John Galt. Galt's Gulch. That's what it was, Galt's Gulch. I couldn't think of it. Kept wanting to say like Gulch, because I knew it was something like that. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Galt's Gulch. There you go. Atlas Shrugged. That's what it was. Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged. John Galt or Galt's Gulch. There you go. All right, let's get into the last segment of the day. Let's knock out this Pierce Pedo Nexus stuff. Let's get right into it. Starting off, I found another article for us to dig into to get it. I really wanted to dig more into the dig more into the scandal, I guess, the affair, the whatever this is. There was all these accusations. It's kind of confusing because it's a group of different guys and a bunch of different stuff going on. So I just want to try to wrap our head around this again one more time. And then I have some interesting Epstein files seemingly tying Brock Pierce, or further showing the level of relationship between Brock Pierce and Epstein, at least showing an increased level of familiarity, while also bringing Mike Cernovich into the fold a little bit here as a name being dropped there. Throw a little suspicion on there. But let's go through this piece over at Your Tango first off. Dig into, says, what happened to the Hollywood men accused of child sexual abuse in an Open Secret documentary? So also letting you guys know, apparently there's a documentary on this called An Open Secret. Might have to check that out on my own time sometime. This is by Mickey Spolin over at Your Tango. Says some of them still work with kids too. This is a new HBO documentary. Actually, let's see what the date of this was. This is from July 16th, 2020, so 6 years ago. So this is the documentary is a little bit aged, but a new HBO documentary is shining some light into the world of child actors. Showbiz Kids takes a deeper dive into the side of the entertainment industry by having child stars tell their own stories about working in the business at such a young age. One side of the industry that the film brings up is the subject of abuse against child actors. However, this isn't the first time attention was brought to this darker corner of Hollywood. During the 2017 Me Too movement, we witnessed an alarming number of victims share their own experiences about the rampant predatory behavior in Hollywood. The number of powerful Hollywood men accused of sexual assault is seemingly never-ending. Kevin Spacey, James Toback, Dustin Hoffman, and Brett Ratner, just to name a few. It was Brett Ratner and then this guy right here on the left here, I believe Singer. Those are the ones I was mixing up last time. So that was part of I really wanted to get that little thing down pat so I don't keep mixing those two people up. Perhaps some of the worst part of these accusations is how long it took for them to reach the public when, in the Hollywood circle, they were really never a secret at all. After the Weinstein accusation came to light, some of the most prominent actors and actresses in the business basically said, basically everyone pretty much knew about this. Just don't worry, it gets worse. 2013, Corey Feldman revealed information about a Hollywood pedophile ring in an appearance of The View. Says, you're damaging an entire industry, Barbara Walters told him. But Walters' comments didn't deter Feldman. What a crazy thing to say if someone's telling you about a pedophile ring. All right. In fact, not only does he continue to maintain his claims, but he also released a documentary earlier this year detailing the sexual abuse both he and fellow star Corey Haim face as young actors. In 2014, director Amy Berg released An Open Secret, a compelling and horrifying look into the world of child actors. The documentary featured former child stars who opened up about the types of sexual abuse they encountered throughout their time in Hollywood. Unfortunately, the film flopped upon its release. We got 0 Hollywood offers to distribute the film, not even one. Literally no offers for any price whatsoever. Gabe Hoffman, a Florida-based hedge fund manager who financed the film, said in an interview, the men accused of child sexual abuse in the film work closely with children every single day as photographers, directors, and managers, creating what can only be described as a pedophile ring. Some worked with huge stars like Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio, and despite some even being convicted of abuse, continued working with children after the convictions. Although Showbiz Kids does touch on the subject of pedophilia in Hollywood, it doesn't name any names like An Open Secret did. So let's take a look into what happened to the Hollywood men accused of child sexual abuse in An Open Secret. First, Mark Collins Rector. Now, this is the one that when we covered the other day, they seem to really focus on. They seem to be kind of like the point man of whatever is happening here. It says, according to An Open Secret, Collins Rector played a huge role in the organization of this Hollywood pedophile ring. He was a creator of an internet company known as DEN, which created original programming exclusively for the internet, kind of like the modern YouTube, and mainly starred child actors. The actors in the documentary described how Collins Rector would throw extravagant parties at his home for the kids and the other DEN investors. He'd offer the young children alcohol and drugs. One of the victims claimed Collins Rector would force everyone to enter the hot tub naked after dark and lace the young boys' drinks. In 2007, one of the victims came forward and filed a lawsuit against Collins Rector. A New Jersey federal grand jury indicted Collins Rector on 5 counts of transporting a minor across state crimes with the intent to engage in sexual activity. 2014, a report was released on Collins Rector's whereabouts in the years since his indictment, and they are not pretty. He fled to Spain, where he stayed until 2002, when Spanish police arrested him and held him for over a year before sending him back to the U.S., where he was eventually convicted, registered as a sex offender, and sentenced to 3 years of court supervision. According to An Open Secret, Collins Rector flew to Britain in 2006 for brain surgery and never returned to the U.S. A year later, he applied for a civil union with an 18-year-old boy, and in 2011, renounced his U.S. citizenship. Over the years, 18-year-old is, adult, but it is a little weird. Over the years following his indictment and conviction, Collins Rector attempted to build new businesses, though none were successful. He managed to lurk under the radar for the most part, but in 2014 was found alone in his apartment in Belgium. Now, Brock Pierce. So you probably remember Pierce best from his role in The Mighty Ducks. Though his IMDb page lists some subsequent acting roles, as a teenager, Pierce transitioned to more behind-the-scenes positions when Collins Rector made him executive vice president of DEN when Pierce was only 18 years old. Well, makes me wonder what's going on with Collins and Pierce. But when word of the shady activity at Collins Rector's home came out in 1999, Pierce resigned from his position at DEN. Pierce revealed in 2014 that he cut all ties with Collins Rector. So I figured out rather quickly there was nothing to be accomplished with Mark, and instead decided to go off my own to pursue my own entrepreneurial activities, revealed. 2014, he became a Bitcoin Foundation's board member, an election that caused at least a dozen resignations due to Pierce's connection to Collins Rector and DEM. Now, Bryan Singer. He says, yes, that Bryan Singer, the same man who produced popular television shows like House and directed all the X-Men films, was also a prominent investor in Collins Rector's DN. In 2014, one of the victims, I think it was just the first 3. I don't know if he had anything to do with the other ones. So X1, 2, and 3. Keep in mind this was written a while ago. I might be wrong, though. In 2014, one of the victims profiled An Open Secret, filed a lawsuit against Singer, accusing the director of sexual abuse and exploitation. The allegations are truly horrific and weren't the first or last against him. Singer is also mentioned in the new documentary Showbiz Kids, which lets child actors tell their stories of working in the entertainment industry at a young age, including the abuse they were subjected to by powerful people in the business. However, he was never convicted. In spite of the many suits against him, Singer continues to find success. He's directed and produced multiple blockbuster films and shows since the allegations first surfaced. Brian Peck. While Brian Peck is certainly not a household name, his IMDb credits are fairly extensive. He has a number of small parts in children's shows and movies. Between 2000 and 2002, he worked on the set of a Nickelodeon show, All That. Lo and behold, in 2004, an unnamed Nickelodeon star came forward alleging that Peck sexually assaulted him. Peck was then convicted of a lewd act against a child and oral copulation of a person under 16. He had to register as a sex offender. So where does Peck fit into all this? According to An Open Secret, Peck worked closely with Singer. He even joined Singer for the X-Men commentary, in which he also had a small acting role. Despite Peck's conviction, he continued working for children's shows and films in Hollywood. Michael Hara. Hurrah was the only man the alleged pedophile in crowd who an open secret interview. He's one of the founders of the Screen Actors Guild Young Performers Committee, known as SAG-AFTRA. One of the victims interviewed claimed that Hurrah invited him to stay at his house, where he allegedly had other boys living with him. Another victim even called Hurrah on camera and talked about the time Hurrah abused him. Holy shit. Says, I didn't like when you tried to have me sleep in your bed and touch me and everything, the former child actor said, to which Hurrah replied, that was something unwanted I shouldn't have done. Shit, they got him on tape saying that? That's wild. According to an open secret, Hurrah is a former child actor himself. When asked if he'd ever faced abuse in the industry, he told filmmakers that abuse was not uncommon. After the film was released, SAG threatened to sue the creators over their inclusion in the documentary, claiming that Hurrah was no longer affiliated with them and had not been at the time of filming. As of today, no charges have been filed against Hurrah. An open secret revealed that he retired after the release of the documentary, though he still has a couple clients. Bob Villard. According to Open Secret, Villard was a prominent Hollywood publicist and a child photographer. He worked closely with Hurrah, photographing his clients. The documentary noted that Brock Pierce, who you'll remember, went on to work closely with Mark Collins' director, was one of Villard's favorite subjects. It all comes full circle. So keep in mind, just remind you guys, Brock Pierce was a child actor. So this guy was a photographer. So this was one of the guys photographing him as a child. So just to see how Brock came up in this. Parents interviewed for the film explained how they soon found their children's photos being sold on eBay and traced the sales back to Villard. According to the documentary, Villard has managed to escape charges against him for many years, yet somehow he still managed to keep a thriving career surrounded by child actors until 2005 when he was convicted of performing a lewd act on a child he was coaching. An Open Secret reported that he's since been released from prison and still sells photos online. Marty Weiss. An Open Secret describes Weiss as a manager in Hollywood for about 15 years. He was known to have sleepovers with his young clients and would insert himself fully into their lives through things like screening parties and taking them trick-or-treating. Corey Feldman has publicly named Weiss as one of his and Corey Haim's abusers. In 2011, Weiss was charged with molestation after one of his clients came forward with a recording of Weiss admitting his crimes. He was sentenced to a year in jail and 5 years probation. An Open Secret revealed he served just 6 months of that time in jail. He currently registers. He was charged with molestation and only got 6 months. Wild. Only got sentenced for a year. He currently registers as a sex offender in Cali. The film claims he is still managing and working to lighten sex offender laws in Cali. I bet he is. And with that, that's all of that article. But let's check in. I promised a little bit more here. Here's this piece from. Or here's this tweet from Evie at EVIKOKALARA, Evie Kokolari. She says, this is insane. Says, Brock Pierce discussed Michael Cernovich with Jeffrey Epstein in person. You guys may remember Mike Cernovich. I think the last time we talked about him on this show was probably when we brought up maybe it was a time when the Epstein phase thing or whatever, the phase 1 Epstein pictures. I think he was one of the guys. I think he actually may have opted out of that. If I'm a little hazy on that one. But either way, I think last time he came up, I was casually reminding you guys, it may have been an icebreaker story just for fun, about that one time that Mike Cernovich sucked off a tranny and wrote an article about it. So we got into the weeds about real thing, by the way. He did. I guess he later tried to cope and I don't know, whatever. Go look through the backlog. You can find that. And I go into all of that. Brought up a few different links. Did a little bit looking into the specifics there. But yeah. Pretty much, Mike. It looks like Mike sucked off a tranny and wrote an article about it. But anyways, back to this, which I guess it's kind of relevant. I think it's relevant to all this. But apparently, Brock Pierce discussed him with Jeffrey Epstein in person. Says the relevant email is from March 2017. Just a few months after Cernovich sought to intervene under the federal rules of civil procedure to unseal court documents and filings in Giuffre v. Maxwell, particularly materials related to Ghislaine Maxwell's motion for summary judgment. I'll show you guys an example of him in the files. This is of him just being in files, but this obviously isn't incriminating particularly. This is because I forget the specifics on Cerno and how he injected him here. I guess they kind of just laid it out here. He He intervened to unseal court documents. And this is a thing he brings up frequently. He's like this, like, hey, I tried to insert myself to get them to bring out the information and yada, yada. I don't know. I kind of glaze over whenever I hear Cerno try to, go on about what a Epstein warrior he is for trying to make this shit happen. I don't trust him. I don't trust him the tiniest bit whatsoever. So super sketched by that. It always makes me think, well, maybe there might have been a different angle there, but I don't really know enough of the ins and outs there. So definitely suspicious. But either way, here is in the files. Here is U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York, Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell. This is memorandum of law in support of proposed intervener Michael Cernovich, motion to intervene and to unseal. So obviously I'm not going to read this whole legal document out to you guys, but that's in the files. So there's Cernovich's first appearance in the files. So Giuffre's lawsuit include the names of powerful individuals under the banner of quote-unquote transparency. Cernovich petitioned for those names to be revealed. At the time, Cernovich was very close to Steve Bannon, which Bannon is crazy connected to Epstein. So I'm not even going to go into all of that. We've covered that extensively on this show. He repeatedly published Bannon's White House leaks and publicly threatened President Trump if Bannon were fired. On his show, Cernovich claimed he had insider knowledge about Trump and warned that he would unleash a motherload of stories if Bannon were removed. He specifically referenced alleged mistresses, sugar babies, drugs, pill use, and orgies, which I guess to go back to our Bannon coverage, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the origin, because I know Bannon had his other house that people found looked like it was almost being used as like a drug den. Looked like, I think there was even, if I recall correctly, implications, even darker shit may have been happening there. And this is a property he literally owned. A little bit of an older story, but yeah, he moves. That dude glows. These remarks were reported at the time by Politico and the Daily Beast. Before Breitbart, Bannon worked for Brock Pierce. So coming back to Brock Pierce. So Bannon used to work for Brock Pierce back in 2005. He raised funds for Pierce's company and later replaced him as CEO. 2022, Bannon advised Pierce during Pierce's U.S. Senate run. Didn't know he ran for Senate. Pierce, an early crypto figure, clearly knew Epstein well enough to discuss Cernovich and potentially the motion he filed. Emails show that Pierce introduced Epstein to Coinbase's 2014 Series C funding round, in which Epstein invested $3 million. Epstein replied to Pierce that he had no involvement in the motion and suggested that Cernovich might simply be seeking to raise money. Pierce then responded that he was checking references with Steve, which strongly suggests that Pierce was in contact with Bannon while Bannon was still at the White House and that he knew Bannon and Cernovich were closely aligned. She shares another link to the files here. Let's follow this one. Let's see what this is. If it comes on. All right. So, okay, here's the back and forth that she just referenced. Let's look at this one. This is EFTA 006911193 for those keeping track. So, let me see where it starts. Sorry, emails are always weird because it goes down and then up. Shares a link. This is the guy we discussed. It says, billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein filed secret legal papers against Mike Cernovich. That's the kind of, you can tell from the URL, that's probably like the name of the article or something. It says, and then Epstein says he's only trying to raise money. I'm not involved in that case. How did Bannon respond to the request? Wolf will be here Wednesday again. Which Wolf? That's that's Michael. Is it Michael Wolf? I know it's it's kind of wild. That's another guy who's anyways, that's a whole other story. I'm not gonna go down that road. And it says followed up with Bannon on references from Brock Pierce, and that's it. So just kind of backing up what she said there. It says later, Cernovich moved to have Giuffre, the victim, pay legal fees for himself and Alan Dershowitz. So Epstein may have been onto something where this was an attempt to get money somehow. So I don't understand how that makes sense. Or get Giuffre. So they're trying to fleece money from Giuffre. Okay, all right. So, and Alan Dershowitz enters the story here too as well. For those who aren't aware, Cernovich does have a relationship with Alan Dershowitz, and this legal motion is where that kind of circles around their relationship from what I know of them. I mean, maybe it goes back further, but I knew they were involved here. He tends to speak well of Alan, of Dershowitz. So, and do I even really spell out why you shouldn't trust Alan Dershowitz? And a Reason magazine, it's not because he's Jewish. It's probably all the defense of all the pedophiles he makes. Could be the case. That could be it. Could be the fact that he's said, I got rubbed down over at Epstein's Island, but I didn't take off my pants. It could be any number of crazy things out there. It just so happens he's Jewish, right? Just to make that clear. Just because there's a crazy overlap doesn't mean that's the issue here. But yeah, Cernovich later distanced himself from the effort and stated that Maxwell, not Giuffre, should be responsible for the fees. That's interesting that there was some sort of legal motion of sorts where they were trying to get Giuffre, the victim, to pay legal fees. And it's funny that, as this lady just showed, that actually Epstein was literally, he was like, this dude has nothing to do with this. He's probably just trying to get money or something. And I don't know how Epstein knew that could be the case, but looks like he was correct. But although I guess they shifted later, saying that Maxwell should be responsible. Cernovich was also one of the primary promoters of the Pizzagate conspiracy theory alongside others. Now, I will say I looked a little bit into this before I brought this up for the show. And this lady is like very much doesn't believe. She's kind of normie pilled in some ways, I guess, in regards to like Pizzagate and stuff. So she's coming at it from that angle. Now, I actually think there's a lot to Pizzagate. Now, I don't think it's like exactly what the Posobics and the Cernoviches of the world try to make it be. For those who aren't aware, Posobic is another character. Oh, actually, he's brought up in the next paragraph. I didn't know that. But he's another one of those characters who kind of was brought along for the ride of Pizzagate, made a lot of his bones there. Now, I don't remember enough of the reporting, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they were just the slop vendors of the time, essentially intended to be ready to put essentially pie on the face of that story. So essentially misrepresenting what it is, making it easier for the to parody, to essentially create propaganda for the public, to be like, there's nothing to this Pizzagate stuff, and whatever, anyways. The false narrative nearly resulted in deaths and was amplified by Breitbart. The story claimed to expose a powerful cabal abusing children and falsely implicated figures such as John Podesta and Hillary Clinton. Okay. Alex Jones also promoted the story and later apologized after being sued by the pizza shop owner. Third major promoter was Jack Posobiec, who openly promoted Alexander Dugin's work and made repeated pro-Russian narratives a core feature of his output. So you see, you can tell where this person's coming from with the Russia stuff. There was a powerful network abusing children, but was run by the very person that both Cernovich and Bannon were, at minimum, indirectly helping in the process. November 2nd, Epstein emailed Michael Wolff stating, "What if Bannon outed Charlie Rose and Sulzberger, the chairman and publisher of the New York Times? Then what?" Wolff replied, "The end of the establishment as we know it." Oops, I accidentally clicked one second. And here is, let's follow up just to show you her work. Here is the receipt here. Here is that back and forth from Michael Wolff, who we just mentioned before. He's an author, for those who aren't aware. He's one of the guys that we get a lot of these. So you always got to be careful. This when you're dealing with like information of spooky stuff at this level, the information warfare is so much other place. And I know you feel schizophrenic when you start reading the tea leaves of this stuff, but is it schizophrenic if it's true? I don't know. Are you paranoid if they really are trying to get you? Yeah. Now, Michael Wolff, he was very much in the Epstein files. I mean, the way he was in there really seemed to show that a much closer relationship, I think, than was initially being shown. Now, Michael Wolff is an author, and so he writes these books occasionally, and I know he did like a tell-all Trump or something from the first administration, so he was like in the White House regularly. Like, this is his thing. This is how he portrays himself, is like, I get in close with these people, and then I write a book. And that's how, and like, I mean, he is known for coming out with some stuff that the people that he's talking with would be upset that he's revealed, which is kind of wild, because you're like, why would you sit down and give hours of your life and talk to some author knowing he's probably going to do something like that? So weird, but either way, there was a lot of weird stuff that came on the Epstein files with him and Michael, or him and Epstein, that solidifying their relationship, also making it look a little bit different. For example, like he was giving like Epstein advice and stuff about how to evade and how to deal with these accusations and yada yada yada, getting to a pretty creepy level to where you're like, what is going on here? I mean, when he was asked about it, Michael was kind of like, well, this was like I had to get in good with him, and like some kind of almost as if he's like a spy trying to like undercover type thing. So, okay, sure, perhaps that is the case, but that's his story. So just want to let you know. But this is from Michael Wolff to Epstein. It says actually initially Epstein says, if Bannon outed Charlie and pinched Sulzberg, then what? And then Michael Wolff responded, the end of the establishment as we know it. Days later, the story about Charlie Rose broke. The forcing his resignation. Roughly a month later, the chairman of the New York Times stepped down. This raises an unavoidable question. Why was Steve Bannon involved in outing others while later working on Epstein's own rehabilitation? Which leads to an even more troubling question. Was Cernovich's motion truly about media transparency, or was it an attempt to unseal names so that other powerful figures could be exposed, potentially benefiting Epstein by deflecting attention from him? Outing others would have been an effective strategy, shifting public focus toward a widening circle of scandal while reducing pressure on Epstein himself. That possibility cannot be dismissed. In the meantime, Mike Cernovich remains as shady as hell, and she is correct. I thought it was a little of an interesting dig, kind of bringing Mike into the fold here. I always like to talk shit about Mike Cernovich. I find that guy shady. With that, let's roll the chat. Say our goodbyes, our good mornings, and send you off for the weekend. But with that, let's check in on you guys. Let's see what you guys say. Bug Fight says, was the thing about Bieber accusing Obama real? I've never heard about that, so don't know. Weird. I'm in Florida, I'm retarded. What else we got here? Scrolling. Oh, hey, Fire Pixie, you're joining the show a little bit late, but here you are. All right. Well, I think we're at the end. I think I'm caught up. Everyone's saying hello in the chat. I got JMS saying Truman with Tubin. All right, guys. Well, for those who want to support my show, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers. Ooh, we got a last one in here. Fun times indeed. Says, let me get a good morning howdy from Oregon. Marine Stripes, because can you read Rumble? I can. Did you super chat over there? Is that the problem? I'll go check right there. I mean, if you did super chat, they don't integrate the super chat. So let me double check. Maybe I missed a super chat or something. If you are trying to support, because you're saying if I don't read Rumble, I'm assuming maybe. No, I don't see anything. I'm not seeing any Rumble rant. So I do read Rumble though. But like I said though, maybe that's the confusion here, because you're asking if I read Rumble. Is what you're saying. Can I read Rumble? I can. I have been reading Rumble. Let me see. Let me go back. Like, for example, here's Bug Fights. This guy's on Rumble. This is a Rumble chat. But as I say at the beginning, I give everyone one good morning, and after that, you got a super chat to catch my interest. So, I mean, I don't know if I didn't bring you up on Rumble. I don't know what your name is on Rumble. Maybe I missed you. I'm usually pretty good about getting everybody in there. Fun times indeed. We got another lady in the audience. No way. I might have I do have a meme for that one, but whatever. Well, another day. All right, anyways, back to plugs. And Alien Big Cat says my live chats hardly ever work. That's another point on the Rumble thing. You got to think between Rumble and YouTube, they both censor their chats too. So depending on what you're saying there, I don't know what you're saying in those chats. Rumble pretty much lets you get away with damn near everything, but if you're going hard in the paint, it will censor sometimes. YouTube is the opposite and will censor damn near everything. So, but with that, for those who want to support my show, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, 5-star review at iTunes, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. If you want to support the show the best way you can, you with money over at patreon.com. There's no way Jose 2020, top left-hand corner, you got the QR code over there. If you, and I said the URL, right? Yeah. And over there, you get access to early episodes at a low level of $2. I give you guys access to the ad-free, or give you guys access to early episodes. Try to do about 1 to 2 of those per week. Just did a weekly Wolfson the other day. That's in there. Also try to keep about 3 to 4 of them behind the paywall at any given time. Also give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed. Give you guys access to Telegram, the pre-show and the pre-show, post-show, and video calls. And me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Are You Dead? And I give a big shout out to the highest level of my Patreon. It's a big thank you for their support at the end of every episode. Big ups to the homie, the previous co-host on Tower Gang, or my previous co-host on Tower Gang together. Toad, at Learner Toad, also at Brigade Days, at ZWCK, at _ Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at John Cleepo, big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Tackus, Winter Car for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, Jacob Wintergad, Biblical Anarchy Podcast, and John Black, that beautiful bastard. And with that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Should be back probably Monday, probably around 11 a.m. Eastern, but make sure you hit that bell, all that good stuff. That way we'll let you know if I am there. And we'll have a weekly Wolfson drop in sometime this weekend. But with that, guys, we'll see you on the next one. I have a cute little outro for you. I think you'll like, unless you're an evil human being. Here's a beautiful video of snow leopards cuddling. Big old kitties. Who doesn't like big kitties? And it's even more beautiful when snow leopards, like, they're known for, like, essentially being the only one in, like, tens or even like hundreds of miles, or maybe like dozens, maybe not hundreds, but like essentially have their own, they're like solitary animals generally. And so this is even cuter. These are these solitary animals that found each other, and here they are cuddling. How adorable. We'll see you guys in the next one. Love you all. Bye-bye.